The beast was laughing. And that was the moment I realized the human was never the one in danger. Every alarm in the Academy training wing was flashing red. Yet Ryan Cole stood in the center of the arena as calmly as if he were waiting for coffee. In his arms, Hero, the predator cub that 6 certified handlers had classified as impossible to approach, kicked its 4 dark-scaled legs through the air and released a bright, rhythmic chirp. The translation system searched for several seconds before displaying its best interpretation across the observation glass. Social delight. Ryan turned in a wide circle, holding the 85-pound cub securely against his chest, while Kiro stretched its short front limbs toward the ceiling. The human laughed with it. 10 feet away, a full-grown war beast stood beneath the amber emergency lights, its armored shoulders nearly level with Ryan's head. It watched him without advancing. Commander Lyra Voss was trapped inside a powered training suit that had lost every movement function except the visor display. I was Lyra Voss, and until that morning, I believed I understood predators better than anyone in the Academy. Then I watched a white-skinned human in a gray exchange uniform turn our most serious containment failure into playtime. One of my security guards decided Ryan needed rescuing. Officer Tharek entered through the side gate with a restraint field raised and moved directly toward the human. Ryan did not put Kiro down. He simply shifted the cub into one arm, extended his free hand, and stopped Tharek by the shoulder before the guard reached the active zone. Tharek was nearly 7 feet tall and wearing reinforced equipment. Ryan held him in place without strain. His eyes never left the adult beast. "Do not rush past me," Ryan said. "You are making it nervous." Tharek tried to step around him. Ryan moved once, turning the guard away from the center lane and guiding him behind a padded barrier. It happened so smoothly that Tharek looked more confused than embarrassed. Hero chirped again. Ryan adjusted his grip and gave the cub another slow turn. The adult predator lowered its head by several inches. Every handler in the observation gallery noticed. None of us understood. Our containment gates were open. The central control system was unresponsive. My suit had disabled itself after Ryan touched 3 external locks I had not known existed. Yet the 2 predators were calm because the human was calm. "Put the cub down," I ordered through my helmet speaker. Ryan looked toward me. His short brown hair had fallen across his forehead, and his gray-blue eyes held the patient expression of someone explaining an obvious fact. "He keeps jumping back up," he said. As if to prove the point, Ryan lowered Kiro toward the floor. The instant its paws touched down, the cub sprang toward his chest again. Ryan caught it in midair, turned with its momentum, and laughed. The observation gallery became silent. Kiro had never repeated a training action willingly. It had never sought contact with a handler. It had never looked happy inside our facility. Ryan rubbed the ridge beneath its jaw, and the cub leaned closer. That should have been impossible. 18 minutes earlier, Ryan Cole had been nothing more than a visiting human walking past a yellow safety line on his way to class. Kiro had been behind 3 secured gates. I had complete control of the training wing. At least, that was what I believed before the cub heard the human's footsteps and chose him. 18 minutes earlier, Ryan Cole stopped 3 feet short of the yellow safety line outside Kiro's enclosure. Most visitors saw the line, read the warning symbols, and kept walking. Ryan looked past the signs and studied the cub. Kiro was pacing in a tight circle behind the first transparent gate, but its movements were not aggressive. Its ears remained low. Its tail stayed close to the floor. Every few seconds, it glanced toward the crowded control booth and then toward the ceiling speakers. I mistook the behavior for defiance. Ryan recognized it as stress. "Your cub is overwhelmed," he said. I looked down from the elevated platform and nearly laughed. A human exchange student had been inside our academy for 4 days, and he was already explaining predator behavior to the commander responsible for the entire training wing. "Hero is not overwhelmed," I replied. "It is calculating distance." Ryan watched the cub complete another circle. "Then why does it keep checking the exits?" Several handlers turned toward him. No visitor had asked that before. I stepped closer to the glass. Hero paused when Ryan spoke, then resumed pacing at a slower rate. "Keep moving," I ordered. "This area is restricted." Ryan adjusted the gray academy bag on his shoulder, but did not leave. "The speaker above the enclosure is making a high sound." Our equipment displayed no fault, and none of us could hear anything unusual. Ryan tilted his head slightly. It changes every 7 seconds. I checked the monitor. The ultrasonic guidance system was recalibrating at exactly 7-second intervals. The sound was harmless by Academy standards, but Kiro flinched each time it activated. I lowered the output by 10%. The cub stopped pacing. That should have earned Ryan my attention. Instead, it injured my pride. Handler Yarrick approached from the side corridor and placed a blue hand against Ryan's shoulder. "You heard the commander," he said. "Move away from the line." He pushed. Ryan shifted 1 foot less than 6 inches and remained perfectly balanced. His bag did not slide. His expression did not change. Yarrick looked at his own hand as though the human had somehow altered gravity. "I am leaving," Ryan said. "You do not need to help." A few cadets near the viewing rail laughed. Yarrick tried again, harder this time, reaching for Ryan's upper arm. Ryan turned slightly, caught the handler's wrist, and stopped the movement before it reached him. There was no strain in his posture. He simply held the arm where it was. "Please do not do that again," Ryan said. Yarrick pulled once and discovered the human was not moving. The laughter ended. Ryan released him immediately and stepped back from the yellow line. Kiro reacted before anyone else. The cub moved to the nearest gate, lifted its head, and released a low warning chirp toward Yarrick. It did not look at Ryan. It looked at the alien who had touched him. I told myself the cub was responding to sudden motion. Then Ryan raised one open hand without crossing the line. Kiro became quiet. "See," I said, unwilling to surrender the argument. "It is studying you as prey." Ryan looked at the calm cub, then at me. "Predators usually watch prey leave," he said. "This one looks like it wants me to stay." Kiro placed one paw against the transparent gate. Ryan smiled and lowered his hand to the same height on the opposite side. They were separated by reinforced glass, 3 security locks, and everything I believed about control. Then the shift change alarm sounded, and the first gate began to open. The shift change alarm had barely finished its first tone when the inner gate slid open 6 inches. That was not supposed to happen. The outgoing handler had released control before the incoming handler completed verification, leaving the enclosure between command systems for less than 1 second. For most animals, 1 second meant nothing. For Kiro, it was an invitation. The cub pressed one paw against the moving gate, found the gap, and slipped through before the safety field could reset. Every warning light in the corridor turned red. Yarrick stepped backward. I reached for the emergency controls. Ryan lowered his academy bag to the floor and watched Kiro enter the transfer lane. He did not run. That detail frightened me more than the alarm. Kiro crossed the first 10 feet in a blur of dark scales and golden eyes. The second gate began closing, but the cub cleared it with room to spare. A security officer at the far wall activated a portable restraint field. Ryan heard the device before I saw it. He turned his head toward the officer and said, "Do not fire that while he is moving." The officer raised it anyway. Kiro reached the final gate, lowered its body, and launched. The cub traveled nearly 6 feet through the air, front limbs extended, tail balancing its momentum. Several handlers shouted at once. Ryan stepped forward. One hand rose beneath Kiro's chest. The other supported its side. He caught the cub in midair and turned with the motion, rotating in a smooth circle that carried both of them away from the restraint field. At the same moment, his right foot touched the officer's device and guided its aim toward the empty ceiling. The harmless blue field flashed above them. Kiro landed securely against Ryan's chest. The cub stared at him for half a second, then released a bright chirping sound and climbed higher against his shoulder. Ryan laughed, not the tense laugh of someone pretending to be calm. A real laugh. Warm. Surprised. "You really committed to that jump," he said. Kiro answered with another chirp and pushed its head beneath his chin. The corridor became silent except for the warning system. Yarrick looked from the open enclosure to the human holding an 85-pound predator as though it were an excited family pet. I ordered Ryan not to move. He glanced toward the security officer, who was preparing the device again. "Tell him to lower that first," Ryan said. "The sound is upsetting Kiro." I almost corrected him. Then I noticed the cub's ears flatten whenever the device charged. "Lower it," I ordered. The officer obeyed. Kiro relaxed immediately. Ryan adjusted his grip, bent his knees, and carefully lowered the cub toward the floor. Its paws touched down. For one quiet second, I believed the incident was over. Then Kiro backed away 3 steps, lowered its front body, and jumped again. Ryan caught it just as easily. This time, he turned twice, laughing while the cub stretched its limbs outward and chirped so loudly that the translation system paused before labeling the sound. Play behavior. Yerrick stared at the display. Predators do not play with prey, he whispered. Ryan completed the second turn and held Kiro close. Good, he said. Because I was starting to think your training manual needed an update. I should have ended the emergency and let the evidence speak for itself. Instead, I looked at the watching cadets, the quiet handlers, and the cub that had ignored every command until a human offered open arms. My pride made the next decision. I opened the pursuit arena and told Ryan to prove it was not luck. The pursuit arena was built to turn hesitation into failure. Moving barriers crossed the floor at unpredictable angles. Elevated platforms shifted without warning, and narrow lanes forced participants to choose between speed and control. I expected Ryan to refuse. Instead, he carried Kiro through the entrance, set the cub gently beside the starting line, and studied the course for less than 5 seconds. What exactly am I proving? He asked. That the cub is playing rather than hunting, I replied. Ryan looked down at Kiro, who was watching his hands instead of the open course. Then stop treating this like a hunt. I activated the arena before he could say more. 2 cadets entered from side doors wearing padded blocker equipment. Their task was simple. They would limit Ryan's movement while Kiro pursued him through the course. If the cub ignored Ryan's signals, the demonstration would end. Ryan removed his gray academy jacket, folded it neatly, and placed it near the wall. Then he crouched beside Kiro. We are going to make this easy, he said. The cub chirped and lowered its front body. The starting tone sounded. Ryan moved. Kiro followed instantly. The first blocker stepped into the center lane, expecting the human to stop or change direction. Ryan did neither. He placed one hand on the padded shoulder, turned with the cadet's movement, and guided him gently past the marked lane. Kiro copied the turn without hesitation. The second blocker closed the gap near a moving barrier. Ryan stepped onto the low platform, waited until the last possible moment, and crossed behind the cadet as the barrier opened. Kiro jumped after him, landing exactly where Ryan pointed. The observation gallery grew quiet. I increased the course speed. Platforms shifted faster. Gates opened for shorter intervals. Ryan adjusted before the warning lights changed. He did not drag Kiro through the obstacles. He gave the cub choices. A hand signal for left, a tap against his leg for right, an open palm for wait. Kiro learned each one after seeing it once. At the highest platform, Ryan stopped and raised 2 fingers. Kiro froze at the edge. The moving gate passed beneath them. Ryan lowered his hand. Now, they jumped together and landed in the safe lane. The 2 blockers tried to close the final corridor, one from each side. Ryan slowed instead of accelerating. That confused both cadets. He stepped between them, touched one padded forearm, redirected the other with his shoulder, and left them facing opposite directions without knocking either one down. Kiro slipped through the opening and reached the finish platform beside him. The arena timer stopped. Perfect completion. 0 penalties. No missed commands. Ryan knelt and held out one hand. Kiro placed a paw against his palm. The cub had never completed half the course for any certified handler. Ryan had guided it through every section while also outmaneuvering 2 trained cadets. I searched for a technical explanation because the emotional one felt unacceptable. It followed movement, I said. Not you. Ryan stood and pointed toward the starting line. Kiro remained beside him. Then he gave a small hand signal toward the folded jacket. The cub crossed the entire arena alone, picked up the jacket carefully, and brought it back. Ryan accepted it with a smile. Still think he is hunting me? He asked. I looked at Kiro waiting proudly at his feet and understood that I had not designed a test for the human. I had designed a stage where everyone could watch him prove me wrong. The arena timer had barely cleared when Kiro's ears flattened and the cub dropped Ryan's jacket. A thin pulse moved through the floor, too faint for most of us to notice, but the predator reacted as if the room itself had changed. Its tail went rigid. Its breathing quickened. Ryan looked toward the ceiling before any warning appeared on my console. There is a signal in the upper rail, he said. Cadet Selvek, one of the students who had watched Ryan embarrass the blockers, stepped away from the secondary controls. He had spent months failing to earn Kiro's cooperation, and jealousy had convinced him the human must be cheating. Hidden beneath his sleeve was a portable frequency device used for equipment calibration. He increased its output. Hero bolted across the arena, not toward Ryan, but away from the sound. The doors sealed automatically. Moving barriers restarted without a command. Red tracking lights swept across the floor and marked Ryan as an unauthorized presence. Remain still, the security system announced. 3 Academy officers entered through the emergency lane. Their restraint fields activated at once. Ryan raised both hands. Do not corner the cub, he said. The lead officer ignored him and moved to block Hero near a padded wall. The cub changed direction sharply and nearly entered the path of a closing gate. Ryan crossed 20 feet before the officer finished his next command. He reached the gate, caught its manual handle, and held it open long enough for Hero to pass safely beneath. Then he released it and stepped away before the mechanism reset. The second officer reached for Ryan's arm. Ryan turned, guided the officer into an empty lane, and kept moving. The third activated a blue holding field across the center of the arena. Ryan dropped low, slid beneath its edge, and pointed toward the upper control rail. The source is above us, he said. None of them listened. Hero raced around a column, confused by the shifting signal. Ryan moved between the cub and the officers, using hand signals Hero had learned only minutes earlier. Open palm. Wait. 2 fingers. Left. A tap against his leg. Come. The cub hesitated, then followed. Ryan led it through the safest path, while the officers tried to close the distance. Every time one stepped too near, Ryan redirected the approach without causing anyone to fall. He used their momentum, the moving barriers, and the arena timing as if the entire room had become another obstacle course. Then he reached the tallest platform. The signal device blinked beneath a maintenance panel 12 feet above the floor. Ryan climbed the support frame, balanced on a narrow rail, and removed the device with one hand. The pulse stopped. Hero froze, lifted its head, and looked directly at him. The red tracking lights faded. Ryan dropped lightly to the floor and held up the device. Selvek's identification code glowed across its screen. The security officers turned toward the observation booth. Selvek stopped pretending. Hero crossed the arena slowly, past all 3 officers, and pressed against Ryan's legs. He crouched and rested one hand along the cub's back. You did fine, he said. The lead officer looked at the disabled device, then at Ryan. The human had avoided 3 restraint fields, protected the cub, exposed the Sabotage, and prevented every alien in the room from being harmed. He had won the confrontation before we even understood what the real threat was. Commander Lyra Voss waited until the security officers escorted Selvek from the observation booth, then ordered the arena doors sealed again. The decision surprised everyone except me, because I was the one making it. Ryan had exposed the Sabotage, protected Hero, and outmaneuvered trained officers without creating a single injury. A reasonable commander would have ended the incident there. I was not being reasonable. I was watching my authority disappear every time the cub chose the human over my commands. Hero remained pressed against Ryan's leg while I entered the equipment bay and activated a high-response training suit. Black armor panels closed around my shoulders, arms, and legs. Blue lines appeared across the joints as the assistance system came online. The suit increased speed, balance, and controlled strength, all within Academy safety limits. Ryan watched the final chest plate lock into place. That seems unnecessary, he said. It is a formal assessment, I replied. You have interfered with Academy systems, resisted security, and assumed control of a restricted predator. Ryan looked down at Hero. He walked over here. Several cadets tried not to smile. I raised a transparent safety field around the cub, separating it from the center of the arena. Hero immediately placed both front paws against the barrier and chirped. Ryan's expression changed. The humor disappeared. Lower the field. After you demonstrate that your success was skill rather than chance. You already know the answer. I stepped into the glowing circle at the center of the arena. Then prove it. Ryan removed his gray jacket and placed it beside a padded column. He rolled his sleeves to his forearms, looked once at the suit's power lines, and entered the circle. What are the rules? He asked. Remain within the boundary. Force the other participant to yield. No injury. None. Ryan nodded. Good. I moved first. The suit carried me across the floor faster than any unassisted cadet could react. Ryan reacted before I finished moving. He shifted one step left, and I passed through empty space. I turned immediately. He was already watching the blue light near my right shoulder. I advanced again, changing direction halfway through the approach. Ryan stepped closer instead of retreating. His hand touched the outer edge of my forearm plate. The suit registered a maintenance input and reduced assistance on that side. I pulled away and increased power to the legs. Ryan looked at the glowing hip joint. "Your armor announces every decision," he said. I tried to corner him near the boundary. He waited until I committed to the final step, then turned with my movement and guided the suit toward an empty lane. I stopped before crossing the line, but the balance system took half a second to recover. Ryan used that half second. He pressed the shoulder release, then the hip reset, then the control beneath the chest plate. 3 blue lines faded. My suit remained upright, but every advantage disappeared in sequence. I attempted one final approach using manual control. Ryan stepped inside the turning radius, placed 2 fingers against the central override, and waited. The armor entered neutral mode. My arms lowered. My legs locked in the safest standing position. I could still speak, but I could not continue. Ryan stood less than 3 feet away, breathing normally. "Yield," he said. No triumph. No anger. Just a calm request. Behind the barrier, Hiro sat perfectly still, watching him. I looked at the silent cadets, the disabled suit, and the human who had defeated the academy commander without treating the contest like a fight. "I yield," I said. Ryan crossed the arena immediately, lowered the safety field, and crouched beside Hiro. The cub rushed into his arms. Ryan caught it, turned once, and smiled. That was when I finally understood why the predator trusted him. Ryan never needed to prove he was stronger. He only used strength when someone else refused to listen. The arena should have returned to normal after I yielded, but Senior Security Officer Mailer refused to accept what he had witnessed. He entered through the western gate with 4 armored officers behind him and announced that Ryan Cole was under temporary detention for interfering with academy equipment. Ryan was still holding Hiro when the order echoed across the room. The cub stopped chirping, its ears lowered, and its golden eyes fixed on the advancing officers. Ryan placed Hiro gently on the floor. "Stay beside me," he said. The cub obeyed. Mailer raised a restraint projector. "Step away from the predator and place your hands behind your back." Ryan looked at the 4 devices aimed toward the center of the arena. "Those fields are too close together," he said. "If they overlap, the feedback will destabilize the power grid." Mailer dismissed the warning. "You are not in command here." Ryan glanced at me. My training suit remained locked in neutral mode, but I could still access the arena data through my visor. The power readings were climbing exactly as he predicted. "Officer," I said, "lower the projectors." Mailer ignored me and gave the signal. 4 blue fields crossed the arena at once. Hiro moved before the first one reached the floor. The cub stepped in front of Ryan and spread its short forward limbs, placing itself between the human and the officers. Ryan immediately lifted Hiro out of the intersecting beams and turned sideways. The first field passed behind him. The second met a polished barrier and reflected toward the ceiling. Ryan stepped through the narrow space between the remaining 2, carrying the cub securely against his chest. He reached the nearest officer, touched the projector controls, and lowered the output before the alien understood what had happened. Then he handed the device back. "Safe setting," Ryan said. The second officer approached from his left. Ryan shifted Hiro into one arm, guided the alien past with his free hand, and removed the projector battery during the movement. The device powered down without an alarm. The third and fourth officers tried to close the lane together. Ryan waited until their fields aligned, then placed a training shield between them. Both projectors detected the obstruction and entered automatic standby. He took the devices from their surprised hands and set them carefully on the floor. Less than 10 seconds after the order, all 4 officers were standing unhurt and unarmed while Ryan remained exactly where he had started. Hiro rested calmly against his shoulder. Mailer's expression darkened. He drew a command tablet and attempted to activate the arena containment system. Ryan looked toward the ceiling. "Do not do that." Mailer pressed the control. Every light in the room went black for half a second. A heavy mechanical sound rolled beneath the eastern wall. My visor filled with system alerts. The overlapping restraint fields had overloaded the secondary grid, and the emergency power had rerouted through the adult predator wing. One lock released. Then another. The distant holding gate began to open. Hero turned toward the sound and became completely still. Ryan lowered the cub behind him and watched the dark corridor beyond the rising door. A deep rumble moved through the arena. Mailer finally lowered the tablet. "What did I open?" he whispered. Ryan rolled his sleeves down, stepped between the officers and the corridor, and answered without looking back. Something that heard all of us arguing. The adult war beast emerged slowly enough to make every second feel deliberate. Its armored back nearly brushed the top of the holding gate, and its golden eyes moved from the disabled security equipment to Kiro, then finally to Ryan. The cub pressed close behind the human's legs, but refused to retreat. I forced my training suit through an emergency reset, restoring limited movement before the system completed its safety check. Ryan heard the motors activate and looked over his shoulder. "Commander, stay where you are." I ignored him. The adult predator had escaped under my authority, and I believed control could still repair the situation. I stepped into the arena and raised the suit's containment projector. The war beast lowered its head. Ryan moved between us before I could activate the field. "That machine is making you look like a challenge," he said. "It recognizes command armor," I replied. "It recognizes tension," Ryan corrected. The beast advanced 3 careful steps. Ryan did not retreat. He shifted his body slightly sideways, keeping his hands visible and leaving a clear path. Toward Kiro. The adult moved to the left. Ryan matched it. It moved right. He matched it again. Neither crossed the final 8 feet. I attempted to move around him, but Ryan placed one hand against the suit's forearm control. The projector powered down. I reached for the secondary command switch. He turned my armored wrist away from the console and pressed the external safety release beneath my shoulder. Half the suit entered standby mode. "You already lost one argument with that armor," he said. "Do not let it start another." I tried to restore power manually. Ryan tapped the central reset, and every remaining blue line faded. The suit locked upright, leaving me unable to interfere. He had disabled it in less than 3 seconds while never looking away from the war beast. Kiro chirped from behind him. The adult predator answered with a deep rumble that vibrated through the floor. Ryan lowered himself slightly, not enough to appear weak, only enough to reduce the difference in height. He breathed slowly and waited. The beast stepped closer. Its head stopped inches from his open hand. The observation gallery remained silent. Ryan did not touch it. He allowed the animal to decide. The war beast tested his scent, lifted its head, and moved around him toward Kiro. The cub stepped forward. Their foreheads met beneath the amber lights. The adult relaxed first. Its shoulders lowered. Its tail settled against the floor. Ryan remained between the predators and every frightened alien in the room until he was certain the danger had passed. Then the adult turned back toward him. It circled once, studying his stance, his breathing, and the calm way he protected both Kiro and the audience. Ryan held his ground through all 3 tests. On the final pass, the war beast stopped beside him and lowered its head. Not in fear, not in surrender, in recognition. Kiro stepped out from behind Ryan and leaned against his boot. The adult settled on his other side. I watched from inside my disabled armor as the 2 most unpredictable predators in the academy chose the same place to stand. That was when I understood the arena had found its apex, and it was not the largest creature in the room. The Academy Council arrived 7 minutes later and found the arena in a state their regulations had never anticipated. Senior Security Officer Mailer stood beside 4 inactive restraint projectors. I remained locked inside my own training suit. Ryan Cole stood calmly between Kiro and the adult war beast, while both predators ignored every handler calling from the observation gallery. Council Director Vale entered wearing ceremonial command armor and immediately ordered the animals separated from the human. Neither predator moved. Ryan looked toward the director. "That would be a bad idea right now." Vale's silver eyes narrowed. "You are a visiting student. You do not decide academy protocol." "No," Ryan replied. "They do." He nodded toward the predators. The director dismissed the warning and activated his armor's containment system. Kiro lowered its ears. The adult war beast rose to its full height and stepped closer to Ryan, placing itself between him and the council officers. Every guard raised a projector. Ryan lifted one open hand. Hero stayed beside him. The adult stopped advancing. One gesture from the human accomplished what 6 command signals had failed to do. Vale interpreted the silence as hesitation. He crossed the arena and reached for Ryan's arm. Ryan moved once. His hand touched the director's wrist, redirected it away from Hero, and pressed the external release beneath the armor plate. Vale's right gauntlet entered standby mode. The director tried his other hand. Ryan stepped inside the armor's turning radius and tapped 2 more controls. The chest display went dark. The leg supports locked in a safe standing position. 3 seconds after entering the arena, the most senior official in the academy could no longer move his ceremonial armor. Ryan took one step back. Please stop treating every calm creature like it is waiting to attack you. No one laughed. The council technicians pulled up the arena records. The data spread across the observation glass in bright, white lines. Ryan had never used more than 19% of his estimated physical capacity. Every movement had been adjusted to protect the cub, the adult predator, and the aliens who kept challenging him. He had redirected restraint fields away from students, prevented equipment overloads, and disabled armor without triggering a single emergency response. The final behavioral analysis appeared beneath the physical report. Both predators had classified Ryan as a trusted protective member of their social group. Vale stared at the words. They think you are their handler. Ryan shook his head. Handlers give orders. Hero backed away, lowered its front body, and chirped. Ryan's expression softened. Friends make invitations. The cub rushed forward. Ryan caught it in midair, turned in a broad circle, and laughed as Hero stretched its limbs with obvious delight. The adult war beast watched them, then moved to Ryan's side and lowered its head within reach of his hand. This time, I ordered every officer to lower their equipment. Vale looked toward me from inside his disabled armor. Commander, explain your decision. I finally managed to release my helmet. The predators are calm. The human is calm. We are the only ones creating a threat. The officers stepped back. Ryan placed Hero gently on the floor. The cub remained against his boot, while the adult stood beside his shoulder like a silent guardian. In the weeks that followed, the Academy rewrote its predator training program around choice, patience, and trust. Ryan refused every official title we offered him. He simply visited after class. Hero always heard his footsteps first and waited at the gate for another turn through the air. We once believed the human had somehow tamed 2 dangerous animals. We were wrong. They were never his pets. They had recognized the safest and most dangerous member of their pack.